It was late Friday afternoon, December 21st, 1996. Zach was a senior in high school, and he'd just been accepted into the University of Georgia. Leaving school, I noticed ominous-looking clouds, but I had some last-minute errands to run before Saturday. As Zach and I left the mall and got into the car, the sky was turning dark. Heavy snow began to fall. We had an almost 30-minute drive home ahead of us. Zach was so excited. "It's snowing for Christmas." My response, "Oh no, can it get any worse than this?" At that precise moment, one of the lenses in my glasses dropped into my lap. I learned never to say those words again. Things can get worse, and they did. We celebrated our family Christmas the next day at my parents' house, the week before Christmas, because my sister, a nurse in South Carolina, had to work Christmas Day. My brother kept to himself all day. He had a history of drug and alcohol abuse, and he was in counseling. He'd recently told my father, "I'm 39 years old and I have nothing to show for my life." Christmas dinner was late afternoon, so we took our time drinking coffee and eating snacks before dinner. I made a fresh pot of coffee. My brother came into the kitchen and said, "You always make good coffee. Look, put some water in this cup and put your spoon in it to keep it clean." Strange. Larry never liked my coffee. He never thought it was strong enough. Later he spoke to Zach alone. "Congratulations. Good luck with your studies at Georgia." He told my niece, "Always be yourself. Don't worry about what others think." After eating dinner and opening presents, Hugh, Zach, and I headed back home. On Sunday morning early, my sister called me frantic. "Are you sitting down?" "Yes." "Larry is dead. He committed suicide. My mother had found him in the den. He didn't leave a note." We hurried to my parents' house, and the first thing I remember saying to my mother was, "I wish I could turn back time and change what happened." My parents were devastated. They were never the same. Open packages were still under the tree in the living room. Some of them were Larry's gifts. We realized later that he had spoken to each one of us alone that night to say goodbye in his own way. And so on the afternoon of Christmas Eve, in a cold, rainy drizzle, we stood by his grave to say goodbye. When I arrived back home, in the mail I received 3 Christmas cards and a summons for jury duty. All I could do was laugh at the surreal day in my life. That was the end of Larry's earthly life. It was the end of our Christmas joy, or so we thought. After 50 years of Christmas celebrations in my parents' house, we never held Christmas gatherings in their house again. We held them at my house. But something amazing happened to me. In the few days after Larry's death, I started having eerie thoughts. I was sitting at the kitchen table late at night writing thank you notes for food and condolences. I had a strange feeling someone was watching me from outside the window. When I went upstairs, I looked down into the entry. We had a light fixture that hung down from the ceiling. I had put a Christmas wreath on the wall by the front door. I know this was all a reaction to shock and grief, but I began to wonder, what if a shadow passes across the wall? I'm a child of the South. It became a bit of an obsession for me. On a bitter cold night, Hugh went outside to bring in firewood. When he set down the logs, there was something pressed flat between 2 of the logs. I thought it was a dried mushroom, but when I looked closer, it was a dead butterfly. I said, "We can't burn a butterfly's body." I laid the lifeless butterfly on a sheet of white paper on a table. The den began to slowly warm up. I went upstairs, but when I looked down toward the wall with the wreath, tall shadows were passing across the wall in the light. The butterfly wasn't dead. She had flown into the entry and lit on the light fixture. As she was opening her wings to warm up, They created shadows in the light. I hurried down to the den. The sheet of paper was empty. All I could think about was the story of the women finding Jesus' empty tomb. Resurrection, butterfly wings in the light. I found my butterfly book and looked for an identification. She was black with her wings edged in creamy white. A mourning cloak. Mourning. I have always believed that butterfly came to comfort me, a gift from God, and another gift, the gift of light in the darkness. Fast forward 24 years later, how do I find joy in a season forever touched by unspeakable tragedy? Suicide ends the suffering of an individual, but it leaves anger and immeasurable grief. The individual is not the only victim. Family and friends are left behind to pick up the pieces. We had to come to terms with the fact that my brother made his own decision for himself. I never sing "It's the most wonderful time of the year" because it will never be that for me or my family. But my sister and I decided that instead of looking back at our Christmas tragedy, we need to focus on the future. We have to keep Christmas for our children and grandchildren and ourselves. I found so much comfort in my church. I love the music and our Christmas Eve service every year. Christmas time still isn't easy. Sometimes instead of joy and celebration, I rejoice when the season is finally over. It's an emotionally charged season for many people. We don't all live in a Hallmark Christmas. But joy doesn't live alone. We must have hope. I find joy in the laughter of my family, the memories we make. We look to the future as we celebrate the birth of Christ, and we remember the words of Isaiah, "Arise, shine, for the light has come."